Step into a world of magic and limitless possibilities with me, your host, Katie Soul. I'm not just your average podcaster. I'm a former Fortune 100 exec who dared to escape the rat race and embark on my own mystical journey. Together, we'll discover that a mystical life is not something you stumble upon. It's a life you consciously create. Join me as we explore inspiring stories of extraordinary souls who fearlessly pursued their dreams and unlocked their inner radiance. Welcome to my world, where magic awaits and your light shines bright. Hello, and welcome to the Mystical Living Podcast. I am beyond excited and delighted to have my dear friend, Asha, with us today. Asha is a molecular biologist, a ceremonialist, a human design expert, a loving mama and wife, and just a simply amazing human being. Asha, welcome to the Mystical Living Podcast. You sure live a very mystical life. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hello, we're here.
We're here. We've had a few little tech bits and bobs, and Asha just opened some beautiful ceremonial space for us, and we are feeling good and in the groove to share with you what needs to be shared and said and stated today. Asha, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about who you really are? Beyond all those fancy titles.
First, I am a mom. I feel really fulfilled that I've been able to parent for over 21 years. Check. I am an immigrant of Venezuela, and I am also Indian. And I came to the US to study molecular biology. And after a long time, I just kept leaning into studying all kinds of healing modalities for the purpose of bringing that to my home and to my family and to myself. There was so much pain that I was in, and it's like that invisible pain, right? That everyone would look at my life or would look at what I was accomplishing and not really know what was happening inside my heart. And so I kept studying and studying and studying because I really had this like strong sense that life could offer me solutions. Like life, there was so much information, there was so much wisdom out in the world, and I just didn't know. And I knew that. I just didn't know. I knew that. I'm like so happy that I knew that part because, just even that piece is like, I was not in a victim place. I was in a student place, even though I was feeling crappy.
Yes. And that's such a big, big difference. Can you explain what the difference is between victim and student?
I mean, it's about where we place responsibility, right?
Yes.
And it's not to say that I was never felt like I was a victim. I mean, of course, like I'm a human being, like trying to make sense of it all, right? So there's moments in my life where I place the responsibility on something outside of me. And that's not to say that there are not crappy systems of oppression or crappy people or crappy jobs or crappy companies or whatever, right? Like it's not to deny any of that, but it's also to say, but wait a second. I'm a divine being. I was placed on this world with certain abilities, certain gifts, a mind that knows how to solve problems. And this is just like my whatever circumstance that I'm living in is just another adventure. And there's got to be information that I don't yet have And I think books opened up the world for me.
Is there any one book in particular that just blasted you open in a way that you're so grateful for?
Yes.
There is?
Yes.
Okay,
And
tell
now
us.
my oldest daughter's reading it too. Well, she's read it a couple times.
Oh, I know what book this is.
Yes, I bet you do. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And then the second
Yeah,
one another one was The Power of Now by Edgar Tolle. That
amazing book.
Women Who Run with Wolves was another one. It's like each of these books like met me
Mm,
in the chapter that I was just about to open, and it met me with the right tools, with the right wordings, with the right like essence. And then I feel like books are these windows to possibilities.
mm, they sure are. Is there a book that's resonating with you right now at this point in your journey?
I am restudying the Bhagavad Gita, the
Whew.
Gita.
Tell us what does that mean?
Okay, so it's a story of Arjuna, who is of a royal family, and he is about to. So, after 12 years of trying to be peacemakers, they have realized that this other family, which is really their family, it's like the cousins took over the kingdom, and the cousins are making a mess with the kingdom. And we've been trying to negotiate with the cousins for 12 years, and it's not happening. And so we have to like go to war. And so Arjuna is going to war, and Krishna is his chariot leader. And the Gita is really the conversation between the two. It's the conversations, the self doubt that Arjuna goes through, and the moments of like, wait a second, what am I about to do? And Krishna, who is, who is we can sort of simplify Krishna as the essence of love, like the personification of love in God form, walks him through the strength and the conviction of being in your dharma. And dharma is a Sanskrit word that means like your duty, your purpose, your gift, the fulfillment of like you on this plane, right? Like what are you going to do? What are you going to amplify in the world? And so that's what the book is about.
So amazing. And Asha, what is your dharma?
So, part of my work is to kind of help people align with a certain essence of their soul, right? There are ornaments to our soul. And so, the way that I like to talk about the ornaments to your soul is to tap into a soul archetype. And the soul archetype that I really tap into, and I have for now probably like 15 years, is Priestess.
Mm,
And and it's kind of broad, right? And it can have a lot of iterations and a lot of ways in which I can embody that. And I think that that's like the beauty of our dharma, is that it's not about a job we do, but it's more about the essence of who we are. Like that's more important than like how. I mean, it's important to act and to be it in the world, but it's more important to know it within ourselves.
so beautiful. When you remembered that as your dharma, was it hard for you to accept the word priestess? Was it hard to embody, or was it just natural? Like you just knew in that moment, the light bulb went off that this was who you were?
It was a moment of being deeply curious. It was a moment of like not knowing what that would look like as a scientist, and as a mom, and like trying to make it in the world. And it's like, what? Like, how do you job as a priestess? Like, what's that? So there was a lot of curiosity, but also a lot of a recognition.
Totally.
Yeah, and really
Mhm.
not knowing how that would be expressed or how I would tap into that. And then, of course, like anything else, life started bringing me pieces, like
Hmm.
life started bringing me, okay, study this. Okay, read this. Okay, here's a teacher. Life slowly started bringing me all of this. And another piece that was really kind of like anchored in, I think sometimes we need to hear things from different angles to arrive at the same, the same, like, okay, that's my answer. And one of the ways was that when I started studying astrology, I realized that my North Node was the essence of a priestess. So I was like, okay, like this is me. And so I even like named my book, my first book, The Priestess Code, Awakening the Modern Woman. And that was like definitely like me leaning in, because there was a big part of me that was like, gross. Like what? Like I want to call it like, be the empowered, badass queen. And then it was like the priestess code, and it felt so like soft. And, but I was like, no, I really want to lean into this archetype. I don't know exactly what that is, but, one step at a time, right? Like one moment at a time allows us to find the full expression, the fulfillment of that thing that we're in search of.
Totally. And when I hear the title of your first book, I feel so much power. The
Mhm.
Priestess Code for me transmits power, and that's the frequency that I feel when reading your book. It's a while ago that I read that book, but I remember just that surge of power I felt. So even though perhaps to you it felt soft, I want to reflect back to you. For me, it felt this immense power. And it's a gorgeous book.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad you birthed it into the world.
I think that what you're kind of reflecting back is our own collective power, especially as we kind of root into earth and moon wisdoms, right? And earth and moon wisdoms can seem so soft in a world that's a little like demands a little more like from us, right? And yet there is power in that. There is forgotten power in that. And it's like all of us are in this, like remembering how much power we actually have.
Totally. And I love that collective power, that we are all aspects of this greater quantum field, including us as humans, the moon, the sun, Mama Gaia. We are all aspects of creation, which is so beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about, as a ceremonialist, how do you work with the planets and Gaia and the sun? And what does that look like in your day to day life? And how might the people listening, our audience, maybe find a practice that they can incorporate into their lives too?
Bringing ceremony into my life, again, maybe now you see the pattern, came from a place of a lot of pain. I had experienced a huge betrayal, and it made me really pause and say, wait a second, what do I actually want to do in the world? I do not want to create from a place of me pushing something to be. I know I can do that. I know I have will and enough tenacity and enough like horsepower to move the thing along, but I don't want to create like that. It's not sustainable for me,
Sister speaks for me. Been there, done that.
right? And it's
Yeah.
a little exhausting.
It's really exhausting.
So I started doing ceremonies every Friday. In my tradition, Fridays are the day of the Great Mother. And so Fridays felt like this like beautiful Venus day to sit with the earth, sit with my soul, sit with my dharma, and really be in conversation. And I will not say that the first time I did it, I got answers. I did not. All I got was just more silence.
Mm.
And I just kept showing up and showing up and showing up and calling in and calling in and calling in. And then there was a quickening.
Mm.
There was like something that like bubbled up from within me. And I was like, okay, this feels like this could be of service to the earth. That's who I want to co create with. So I kept listening and listening. And that is kind of like how I live. I live in this way that I get these ideas. I'm a pretty creative person. I get these ideas and then I like take them to the earth and I offer them. Like I have my creativities and I just take them to the earth and say like, this is my offering to you. Like, what do you think? Essentially, right? Like, is this actually gonna like move the needle out in the world? And then I wait to hear. Sometimes there's feedback. Sometimes it's no. Sometimes it's like yes. Sometimes it's like get it started, and then it'll be of something else. And so it's actually very practical. Like it's very much a like day to day thing for me because I only want what is most aligned. I only want the things that are going to be for the good of all, including me, right? Including me, my families, but also like the earth and humanity. Like I want to move things along in a way that's going to create more liberation for individuals, like all people. And so I this is like the way that I go about things. And somebody asked me, so I'm right now coaching a man and I bring up all these things like having an altar for your business, having an altar for your dharma, da da da. And he's just like, yeah, that's just like not how I roll. And I was like, okay, like got it. I've been with a man for 20 some years. I get it. He has a different way of being in conversation with spirit. And so what I said to him was, he runs every day. This client okay. And I was like, great. And you probably like have a lot of processing and, you talk to the trees or whatever. And he's like, yep. And I was like, all right. So what if before you run, you put an incense on the ground, you call in the directions, including yourself and your soul and the thing that you're a steward of. And then you went on your run and then you come back to your incense and then you seal the space and ask earth or your guides or what have you to really make it super crystal clear what your answer is to this question or this inquiry or this conversation. And he was like, I can do that. And so that's a little bit of a practice that anyone can do. If you do a thing, if you go to yoga, if you go for a walk, like and anything that you already do, just add that like sacred calling
Mm.
of the directions and just like even lighting a candle. It's like it's a sacred fire. Incense, they say, like in Egypt, they say that when you light incense, the gods like rejoice and show up. And, like beautiful magical doors open when we acknowledge what is holy in this very existence.
Truly. Oh, so beautiful and practical too, because this is really living in a ceremonial way is something anyone can do. And you can start just adding it in slowly, whether it's a meal by yourself with your family, setting that sacred space, setting an intention when you're going out for a walk, when you're gathering with friends. You can do these practices and weave them in, and you wake up and your life becomes a ceremony. And every aspect of your life is divine and divinely orchestrated. And it's so beautiful and incredible. And I'm grateful for you sharing that amazing wisdom with us, Asha. I do, though, want to backtrack because there was a before Asha, an Asha even before I knew you, that lived a life as a molecular biologist. And I want you to share with the audience what that life was like and how you evolved into the life that you live today.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing about the Asha then and the Asha now is not so much the job I had, it's more about what I allowed myself to be.
Whew. Yes.
Because
Mhm.
living the full expression of who we are, it's not really gauged by the job we have. I mean, sure, jobs that feel like a little like more like we're more impassioned by it, or lifestyles that we're more impassioned by, of course, feed the fountain of our own essence. Absolutely. And for most of us, the task at hand, the curriculum at hand, is to fully express ourselves, irregardless of what space we're in.
Mm.
And I think that Asha just did not have the skill set and did not give herself permission to be herself.
Mm.
And part of the journey was discovering who I was, for sure. There's a
Yeah.
discovery. It's not, I mean, it's also like I didn't know. Like I didn't know parts of who I was. I had inklings and I had like the archetype to like sort of remind me of what really resonated with my heart. I think that's the biggest difference.
I love that, Asha. I want to know if this resonates with you because it's something I felt really deeply at moments in my journey. And there was a time in my journey where things were really crumbling in my life. My marriage was crumbling. The house I was living in was crumbling. My body was going numb all the time. And I would get this glimmer of the me today.
Mm.
And she just was there. I couldn't quite see her fully clearly, but like there was this glimmer of her. And then the me today sends love back to that version of who I was in that moment. And because time isn't really linear, I
Mm.
believe that there is a co creation with our future selves and our past selves in every now moment. I'm curious if that resonates for you too.
Yeah. And I'm always reminded of that when I've been dreaming into something and then a year or two later, it's like, hi, hi, we dreamed each other, so every time that I feel a sense of doubt, I remember that. I remember that it does take that, like a little bit of concentration and a little bit of dreaming, letting ourselves dream, and that those things that we dream of can be like right in front of our eyes. And I love what you just said about like, I think we're so future thinking. I know I definitely am, but I love what you were saying about like also, like, just as I was giving love to my future self, allowing myself to dream for some moment in the future, I think it's really beautiful to also like pat us pat our past self in the back, like saying like, hey, nice job, like good job, like getting through that.
Truly. I know. And I want to talk about the quickening too. I had this beautiful experience with you last August. We were at the beach and we were having a beautiful beach day and doing ceremony because you can incorporate ceremony into just a fun beach hang with your friends. And during this particular ceremony, we were all putting in intentions of things we wanted to call in.
Mhm.
And I somehow blurted out I wanted to launch a clothing line and had no conscious thought of this before this beach day. And the spell was cast. And I launched a clothing line. And we're not even up on a year yet. We're actually doing the same beach day with maybe a slightly bigger group of friends this year. And I'm so excited to see what's going to brew up next. And it's just amazing the acceleration and the quickening that can happen when we are doing something that fits in with our dharma, with our life purpose. So I'm curious, as we are about to approach in about a month, this year we're doing it in July, our next beach day, what is it that you are really calling in? Can I get a preview?
Mm. So I have been running pilgrimages for some time, and I love this work so much. Like, I love it so much. I love it so much because it's natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been that kind of person that travels places, and I could go to friggin' Chicago and have a pilgrimage. Like the way that spirit, like, just like, and now go here and now go here. And I'm just like, what? Like, this is available here? Who knew? Like, that is like part of my little slice of magic on this material plane. And so to be able to do that with a group of people feels like I've won the lottery of life.
Mm. Yes.
So the dreaming that I would drop in is to have that be bigger and bigger, more and
Mm.
more. Like, the more the
Yeah.
merrier, really.
Oh, tell us, Asha, where are you pilgrimaging to next?
Okay. We are going to India in September, and
Ooh.
then Egypt in March of 2024. And
Mm.
then we have a Spanish one because I'm Latina. We have a Spanish one going to Morocco also next year.
Oh, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Wow, wow, wow. If you are interested in joining any of Asha's pilgrimages, we'll put in the show notes and I'll have a recap at the end, all the ways to get in touch too. But going on a pilgrimage to a sacred land, I've had the opportunity to do this many times. And it's so important to go with somebody who is going to work with spirit, who's going to create coherence, who's going to enter these places with deep reverence and honor and truth and emptiness. And I've had experiences where I've pilgrimaged with lots of different people. And when you can do it in a coherent way, the way Asha creates, it really amplifies the experience, not just as an individual, but as a group and for the land that you are there to honor and experience too. And Asha's just simply the best. And I
Yeah.
highly encourage you, if any of those places are calling you, to check out her pilgrimages. You also have this other talent and a lens to human design that I am in awe of. You just co-wrote a book and it's about this topic. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your book and what your unique lens is to human design.
Yeah. So this book came from a place of being a little pissed off.
As many good things do. Just a little fire first.
I mean, sometimes we do have to access that sacred rage and be like, and we
Mm.
can be in the emotion of anger and do nothing about it and just point fingers at all the people that are doing it wrong. Or we can say, okay, clearly there's a need in the market. Clearly there's a need for another voice. And because I'm such a lover of books, I was like, we must do this in book format. So I co-wrote Your Soul Map, Liberation, Human Design, and the BIPOC Experience, Black, Indigenous People of Color, with AC Brown, because we wanted to have a conversation about the and both, right? The yes, we live in a system of oppression, and also we have access to fulfill what our hearts desire also for the benefit of ourselves, the benefit of our loved ones, and the benefit of humanity. And so the book was really taking a look at human design from that perspective, validating the experience of people of color and anyone who is not in a mainstream, who doesn't hold mainstream identity, and still look at this tool as a way to for us to use it, and also, which kind of goes along with the pilgrimages, is like I love to create what you mentioned as coherence, but I'm also such a deeply curious person that I want to know the practices of the land. Like I don't just want to like bring my stuff. Sure, I bring my stuff as an offering, and because like 20 years, but also I'm deeply curious about like, well, what do the people of this place have? And human design is composed of many different ancient traditions that haven't been re-indigenized in the current human design like community and teaching, right? Like it's got the I Ching, it's got the Kabbalah, it's got the Hindu chakra system, like and even science, um, and those parts are not being honored and revered. And, something that happens when we have these indigenous traditions and we try to incorporate them into modern life, when we don't translate the full aspect of it, a lot gets lost in translation. And we only really get like like an oversimplified version of it. And they are living, breathing, evolving systems. And the more that we honor them, just like ourselves, right? The more that we honor or run with like a little incense, the more that all of us gets to come on board. So we have actually more access, more protection, more blessings when we open up something in ceremonial space. When we say, oh, I'm living in stolen lands. Let me begin by asking permissions of the indigenous stewards of the lands that I live on, because not because it sounds nice, but because like actually I want to make the very ground that I live in like a little more harmonious. And I'm going to leave a little stick of incense or 8 sticks of incense or whatever, as an offering, or tobacco. They love tobacco, as a way to say, here's something for you. Thank you.
Mm. So beautiful. Whew. Your book is just incredible. You and AC did a spectacular job. And as somebody who is and has been for some time human design curious, I was unlocking just so many new aspects and a deeper understanding in reading your book. And I really, really cherished it. It's actually, I can't quite grab it, but it is sitting on my little table over there. I was flipping through it this weekend, and it's a great book because you can also come back to it. It's not a book for me that you just read once and you're done with. It's a book that you can reference as you're evolving and go back to and reflect on new aspects and deeper understandings. And I love books like that where you can keep them handy and reflect on them from time to time.
Thank you.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful book. So grateful you wrote that book too.
Thank you.
And as we wrap today, Asha, I'm curious, what is on your heart for the world, and what is really just sitting right here in your heart that you are feeling into in this now moment?
I love that question. And the answer, maybe it's multi-layered, but also not, but also really simple. What's sitting in my heart is people who feel stuck in situations that feel like the situations are stifling them. And especially if they are women or someone who holds an identity that's not mainstream, because I can see how we have a whole program that tells us that we don't have power. And we do.
We do.
We do. It may not always be obvious. It may feel like it's a long journey to it, to our own liberation, but we do. And we must keep reminding ourselves and each other that we do. And we must keep exercising and practicing that truth, even in little ways. Like, it does not have to be a bold thing. You don't have to be like, peace out, I'm done. You don't have to do that. You can also do it step by step. And I can feel deep in my bones that love, life, and light, and all the beautiful things that we know exist on this plane, whether the world is not shining bright lights on it or not, that thing, the mysterious, the mystical, the magical, the grace is going to hold us.
Whew. Wow. Oh my gosh, there's a hummingbird outside my window. It's
Yay.
so beautiful as we're talking. No surprise there. You just transported me back to a moment I shared with you in a little cafe in Harvard. Would have been more than a year ago now. And I was at a deep crossroads of my life, and I wasn't feeling in a place of power. I was at a point where I had to make a big choice around acceptance or integrity. And I knew in my heart I had to choose my own integrity over being accepted at the organization that I worked at. And yet I was feeling bulldozed by the masses, by the mandates, by the bureaucracy. And I was in a vulnerable place because it was a place I grew up in and I thought was family and I thought was going to hold me and really see me and see who I was. And yet when I took a stand and said, this is who I am, this is my truth, this is my integrity, I was met with resistance, and I was met with being disregarded, and I was met with being pushed aside after a long and beautiful and successful career. And in this moment, Asha told me something incredibly profound, which really shaped the entire ending of this story for me. She said, Katie, go home light some incense, and start to put together a list of every single thing over the 2 decades of work that you have done for this company, all your accomplishments, all the moments that you delivered, all the moments you impacted people's lives. And I did this practice, and pages and pages and pages came through. And it was that exercise that put me back in my power. Wasn't something I was planning to share today, but I think it's so important that in moments when we feel like we are being made small and squeezed into a box, one, to share what we're going through with somebody in our lives that can provide sound wisdom, because that's always helpful, taking a partner. And two, use this power practice. It was so incredible for me to really know my worth and who I was, and to plan an exit that was full of grace and compassion and love and power. And I'm really grateful. And I don't think I've ever thanked you properly for how profound that moment was for me in my transition into my new life, and to have that closure come from a place of power and beauty and grace. And I thank you. I don't even know if you remember sharing that wisdom with me,
Well,
but
I remember, because I do remember, and it's a really good reminder for me today to maybe take out my pen and paper and start writing, like, how have I contributed? And wow, I'm just like sitting in that I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy for all of us. And like, what a great reminder to say, I'm going to take a minute and really validate my contribution that's not being validated by someone or something outside of me. But I can do that for me.
Yes. And that's really what taking self-responsibility is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Everyone takes self-responsibility, right? Then that's the kind of community we want to be in, right? Like if everyone is like, oh, let me lean into the curiosity of how I have to grow, or I did that to you, I'm so sorry. Like I wanna do better. That's what we want.
Truly. Truly. And I know in all of my programs and in all of yours, self-responsibility is a huge component. I am not the right person to work with if you are not in a stage in your life where you're not willing to take self-responsibility.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is all about fundamentally, is we have to stand in our truth. We have to stand in who we are. We have to take responsibility for our past, present, and future actions.
Yeah, and I would also like open up the space to say that those of us who are curating communities and our leaders, if there are people that we're in community with and we have a position of power, it is, yes, we want people who are self-responsible, but we also want to take responsibility for the space that we're cultivating, right? Because similarly to this whole cognitive dissonance of, okay, there's a system of oppression and also we have power, right? It's like, okay, if there's a system of oppression, it's like, let's not be in acceptance of the system of oppression, but let's be in integrity. And what it means to be in integrity when we're navigating a system like that is to like start chipping away, or, I don't know, tearing big walls, whatever you're able to do, and crumble that thing. And still we have power and we have agency to create beauty in our own lives.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh, Asha, this was such a treat today. And when we started, we were having some tech issues, and we took a pause, and Asha opened the 4 directions, and I would love for you to close us out in the same way so that everybody can experience this beautiful and simple practice of completion.
Yes. Taking a deep breath in and out. Feeling the full presence of who we are from head to toe. And another breath in and out. And sealing and thanking the directions of the north, of the west, of the south, of the east, sealing the direction of above and below and within, as we thank the indigenous stewards of the lands we sit upon. Thanking primordial source, angels, guides, saints, prophets, and the divine and radiant healer in our own hearts and soul. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Asha. And can you just tell everyone where to find you and how can they stay in touch and learn more about your pilgrimages and your social channels, your website, your programs, all the things?
Okay, so if you're only going to do one thing, I would say go to ashaisnow.com/dharma, DHARMA, and you can find the soul archetype that is more in alignment with you in this moment of life. If you are into social media, I would say Instagram, Asha is Now. And those are the ways to stay connected. And we have pilgrimages coming up. And in the fall, we'll do another round of conscious commerce. But those are the 2 really powerful ways to like be in connection.
And Asha, we'll have to have you back on too, because we didn't even talk about conscious commerce today. And it's such a profound piece of who you are and what you do in this world. So let's do another podcast episode just devoted to sacred commerce.
Okay, thank you.
That would be beautiful.
Thank you.
And with that, everyone have a beautiful, beautiful day wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this. We're beaming you so much love. Mwah. I'm grateful for your presence on this remarkable and captivating journey today. Together, we've delved into the realms of limitless possibilities and unlocked the secrets of our true selves. A mystical life is not a mere coincidence. It's a thrilling adventure that you actively shape with intention and passion. Remember, when you follow your light, you not only illuminate your own path, but you also radiate light to the world around you. The world eagerly awaits the magic you have to offer. Follow your light and let it guide you to incredible heights.